Good morning, friends. Happy Sunday. It is Super Bowl Sunday here in the United States. This is Andy Kennedy, and this is day 7, Sunday of Toxic Truths 60 days to purge the poisons. And today I'm talking about caffeine. These are supposed to be pretty short. I wanted them to be between like 5 and 6 minutes. Seems like averaging between 7 and 8, and sometimes 9, 10. I think I did one. So I'm hoping this one's not too super long, but this is definitely a rabbit hole. I feel like a lot of these topics are rabbit holes. This, just to give you a background again and update you if you haven't been watching all along. I'm doing 60 days of lives. The first 2 weeks are about nutrition and the inside of the body. The next 2 weeks are the body and the outside of the body, and lotions and makeup and products that we put on our body or around our body. The third 2 weeks are the mind and our mindset and our mind power. And the last 2 weeks are the home. So we'll be talking about cleaning and cleaning solutions and toxins that we find inside the home. But bringing it back to wrapping up our first week this week with caffeine, and specifically coffee, but I'll talk more about the other things too. This is a journey. This is my story. I'm not a nutritionist. I'll give you that disclaimer several times throughout this 60-day period. This is just what I have done over the years and what I have found to work for me, but also what I found it to work for others. Because most people that I share the get off the caffeine tip with, which I do in my class, Manifesting with Synchronicity, for about 2 weeks, we go super clean. We cut out a lot of things. And that actually mirrors the Juice Plus community 10-day reset, the 10-day shred 10 that we have. So in both of those two things, we're cutting out gluten and dairy and caffeine and sugar and alcohol and meat if you can. So, this week there were some hot topics and some rabbit holes around meat, dairy, and in general, the things that I feel like people are reluctant to give up. Next week, we're going to talk about sugar. That's one that a lot of people are reluctant to give up, but it is the silent killer. But today, this one's too. This is the caffeine and coffee are one that are really hard for people to give up. And that's not, I toy with the topic here. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the toxins, right? And when we start purging things that are toxic, so coffee isn't necessarily toxic. The plant itself, the coffee bean itself, right? We make it toxic by the things that we put inside of it and the process that we make it, and the stripping, the increasing the acidity level, the even the environment that it's harvested in, right? So you've got to be aware of that too, like how something is harvested. We talked about with meat. Coffee is not, if it's not fair trade, it's like chocolate. If it's not fair trade, you're supporting an industry that's toxic, right? So emotionally and physically and inhumane. So you got to think about things like that. I definitely lean towards companies that are organic and fair trade. And so I have gone in and out of drinking coffee. And when I drink coffee, I just switched to this brand, it's Fabula, and it's 100% organic. But what I love is that it's mold free. So a lot of coffee, after it's harvested and even after it's ground, is going to have some fungus in it, some and that's why they put fungicide and pesticide and all sorts of things on coffee that we maybe probably don't want inside of our body. So that's the detoxing that I'm talking about. But when you're also thinking about caffeine and the addiction to caffeine, your body is going to go through some detox. You're going to feel the headaches, and you know that. So when you are addicted to caffeine and you cut it out, you have those toxic symptoms, right? So and detoxing. And you're probably also detoxing some of the chemicals that are in coffee if you're going caffeine free and you're typically a coffee drinker. And tea sometimes has that too, like really over processed generic teas. I won't list or name any names, but generic teas can be like that too. They can have additives in them. I look at the tea bag. One of the first lives I did was on reading the label, and the ingredients are important to look at. So looking at whether they've got a preservative in them. A lot of teas will have an anticoagulant in them, so it doesn't get all gummy. And so in which case, what is that doing inside of your body on a high level? If you're someone that drinks tea and you're drinking, just box tea, bag tea, you're drinking the paper, what's on the paper, and the things that you want to look at are what those ingredients are. So deep dive on that. So I'll wrap it up because, like I said, I want these to be pretty quick. But I have long loved dandelion coffee, and when I decide to go off coffee, which I'm not drinking right now, I will do either a dandelion, or there's been a surge in this type of coffee over the last 5 to 10 years. So I have 2 brands going right now. I know there are many more, but these are the 2 and this is the end of this one. I've tried both the decaf, which is rooibos tea instead of coffee, and this is mud water. But what it's got, you can see here, is all of these awesome ingredients. Reishi is so good for the immune system. Chaga, cordyceps, good for the brain. These are all mushrooms. Turmeric is anti-inflammatory. And cinnamon is for flavoring, but also has some good properties in it as well. And then Joey's very similar. It's got a full spectrum, and mushrooms are, adaptogenic. So the body is going to use it for different things, and it's going to perform differently in the body, but typically it's helping the body with the immune system. And then lots of other secondary awesomeness as well. It also has cordyceps, reishi, lion's mane, as that one did. It's also added ashwagandha, which is really good for the thyroid, chicory root, which is the flavoring. So I have a dear new friend locally here who makes a chicory and dandelion morning blend that's delicious. And I've been drinking that, but I did want to try this as well. And the reason is because this organic dandelion root, was what I wanted to try. And this is the first day I'm trying this. I was going to do this live tomorrow, but I switched alcohol and caffeine. Not that you would know because you don't necessarily see my schedule, but this is Joey. And so I would recommend that. Versus, this is something that we just got for our guests and our builders. And it's not the greatest. It's instant though, so it dissolves. But for instance, this is already, it's I hate to badmouth this company, but it's got a lot of toxicity levels to it. So because it's decaffeinated, because it's instant, and because it's that main brand. So the other thing I wanted to bring up was Yerba Mate. This isn't necessarily the best example of Yerba Mate. If you're going to do it in just the plain form. But the brain specifically has receptors to Yerba Mate. So it is a form of caffeine, but it's a low, steady, even boost. And caffeine in general is going to affect our endocrine system, which is our nervous system. People who, notice that caffeine maybe affects them differently. It affects their sleep if they drink it too late. And some people, it can even put them to sleep. And in general, it's going to create that high level of stress, that adrenaline stress. And so you're constantly chasing the dragon, right, with caffeine. And you're like, okay, I'm going to drink a cup of coffee, and then you have a lull. And you drink a cup of coffee and you have a lull. Well, Yerba Mate is not like that. It's a much more all day. You can drink one and have energy for 4 or 5 hours because the body knows what to do with it. This is high in sugar. This one is just sort of our crutch. It's our energy drink. It's the cleaner version of like Monster or any of those drinks. Those are, if they're colored, we'll talk about food coloring coming up here next week. Coloring is really toxic, really bad for the brain, really affects autism and ADHD. So, paying attention to food coloring and not drinking anything that doesn't have food coloring. In fact, everything in this is organic. It has a lot of juice in it, but it does have the cane sugar, so that gives it some calories. But other than that, I read this label and went, yeah, this is okay for me because it's very clean. Everything in it is organic, lots of juice, and then the Yerba Mate, pomegranate and cranberry and stuff like that. Really good for, all of those Red berries are really good for the urinary tract system and the elimination system. So if you're a Monster drinker or a soda caffeine drinker, I urge you to maybe make the switch and to switch to something that's either a little bit more natural, whether that's just black tea or iced tea, or whether that's, completely cutting out that drink entirely and focusing on water for 2 weeks. That's always my recommendation. But if you're a coffee drinker and you've been drinking coffee or Monster drinks or energy drinks of any kind for a very long time, ease off of them, and ease maybe in with decaf. So you're still getting the flavor, you're still getting the ritual, but you're easing your body off of that dependency on caffeine, because over time that affects our heart, it affects our brain, it affects our sleep levels, it affects our stress levels. So like I said, I knew this one was going to be a little bit longer today. Thanks for those who have been watching and hanging in there and watching the whole piece. If you do want to make some switch to an alternative, like I said, these two are delicious. I love them. They're earthy and instant, and I add honey to them and sometimes some oat milk. But anyway, today is day 7 and we're talking about caffeine. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for the hot topic of alcohol and toxicity. Thanks.